So first we're going to start with the NFC division. First team up, SBU All-Stars 2. This is, again, Krall's team. Now, during the draft, he was not here, so I don't know, what was going through his mind, but let me go over some of the high points, and then at the end, after evaluating all the teams, I'll tell you the three from this division I like to move on from, in two, I should say, the playoffs. So he has a Drew Brees at quarterback, which, top three quarterback. Everybody likes Aaron Rodgers this year. I still say Drew Brees is the best, fantasy-wise, or better. Peyton and Drew 1A1. Rodgers is still 2 to me. I know a lot of people, like I said, have him very high, but I guess we'll have to see. Now, Krall, your running game is Cedric Benson and Noshawn Moreno. You got Sproles on the bench. That's an area of concern for me. I like Cedric Benson. I do. I think he'll be productive this year for you. However, what happens if he gets injured? Your horses now are Noshawn Moreno and Darren Sproles. You're going to have to do something to improve, maybe pick up somebody on the waivers, get lucky there, or trade for somebody because, I think Noshawn might have a sophomore slump, and I'm not high on Darren Sproles. San Diego loves this kid Matthews, so, what Sproles will be, he'll be nothing more than what he's been, and that's never somebody who's carrying your fantasy team, so I fear for you there. Your wide receiver, I have one. Your wide receivers, they're weak as well. You put a lot into the Drew Brees stock, and I guess we're going to hope it pays off. But your wide receivers are Miles Austin, who, everybody likes. I don't, Giant fan, but everybody's pretty high on this year. So, there's no doubting he would probably have a repeat season last year. So, that was a great pick. Crabtree, again, sophomore, could blossom this year. He absolutely could, but to be your number 2 receiver and somebody that you're going to lean heavily upon, you kind of hope he'd be one of those 3 receivers on your team and spruce up, so to speak, throughout the season and be somebody you can rely on. Because Jabbar Gaffney, everybody thinks that might be a sexy pick. Not sexy, but sleeper. It does nothing for me, to be honest with you. And then you have Julian Edelman, Jacoby Jones, and Steve Breston on your bench. And I like Breston, but we're going to have to see what Derek Anderson's situation, how he's playing this year is, and Edelman is nothing to me. And Jacoby Jones, I know a lot of people are high on as well. Schaffner has to throw somebody else, right? So he could have a good year, but your receivers are weak nonetheless. And Vincent Shenko, I like. He's getting older, though. He's over 30-something now, 31 maybe. And, I fear that he might not be what you expect him to be. So, Gostkowski, your favorite team's kicker, that's good. And the Jets' defense, that's good. I like that. You got a solid team, but you're going to have some holes that you're going to have to fill. Miami Vice, Don Johnson. We'll get into your team quick because, like I said, I don't want to run out of time ever again. Joe Flacco as your quarterback, not bad. Picking him in the 4th round, idiotic. I think you picked him in the 4th round, but it was just silly. Javad Best was who you picked in the 4th round, and that was silly. But Flacco was too early also. But maybe Javad Best was the 2nd round. I don't know if you got Javad Best, but I like him. I've been told that they compare him to Barry Sanders. But now, again, here's my problem. Your running back situation is Javad Best and Matt Forte. Your backups are Leon Washington and Willis McGahee. So, Leon Washington might have a big year, but neither of, I don't think Willis McGahee should be owned. And Leon Washington is your 3rd back behind a rookie and a guy, Matt Forte, who had a couple surgeries, as well as just underperformed last year. You're weak there. You're going to have to bulk up. Trade, free agency, figure out something. But I like Forte this year. I really do. I just, if that's all you got at running back, it could be bothersome. I like Colston. I like Malcolm Floyd. And who doesn't like Andre Johnson? I took him 1st overall last year. So I think that's huge. I love Jermichael Finley. Heard he's a new Antonio Gates. We'll have to see. But with Aaron Rodgers running the ball, I think he should be good. I touched at your bench a little bit. Braylon Edwards, Devon Bess. You got you got decent bye week replacement bench is what you have. But if you were to lose a guy, one of your big guys, you don't have a stud that you can rely on off that bench that could save your season. So trade free agency for you as well. Next to Gary's. Gary's, you are starting off the week playing me, so it stinks that you'll be 0-1 to start your season, but so be it. There's a little ad for the league. Thursdays, 10:30 FX. You should watch that show. Kind of reminds me of us, you know. Never mind. Cutler. I like Cutler this year. Drafted him to my other leagues. Like Marks, you know, it's just dude's gonna throw. He's gonna have his interceptions, but he's also gonna have his touchdowns. He's a slinger. He's a gunslinger is what he is, and hopefully he has a couple big games for you this season. Chris Johnson, obvious #1 choice in my opinion. It's backbone of your team. D'Angelo Williams to get him as well. I mean, having those two running backs and LaShawn McCoy and Michael Bush. I don't want to say best running backs in the league because I think I'd give that to Verdi at this point, but you have nothing to worry about. Bye weeks, injuries. You got a couple guys on that bench that I think can fill in nicely, and your starters are, you know, that's what you go for. But then because of that, I think your wide receiver and wide receiver depth, even though you have a couple of them on your bench, I think that's where the trade-off took place on this team. I don't like Bernard Berrian. I mean, I do. I just don't like Favre. I know there's no Rice, but he found Shanko a lot. He likes Harvin. He's going to mix the ball around even still without Rice. So, I mean, Berrian, solid player, but he's probably a number 3 receiver. And that's probably what you have him for. Bolden as your #1, it kind of scares me. We'll see. New quarterback and everything. Maybe they flourish, who knows. But as a #1, I would have liked to have found something more solid. Hines Ward, consistent. No Ben Roethlisberger, so we'll have to see. Tony Gonzalez has always been consistent, but I don't think he's going to give you anything, you know, knock your socks off this year. Kading and Saints D, like them both. Not the Saints D as much as Kading, but, you know, defense kicker, you know, who cares? Gansett Guns is the next team. I'm getting a little bit faster on you because I'm noticing time is of the essence. Gansett Guns is a Brendan Press team. I love him. He wasn't even there. He did a pretty good job. Wide receivers are certainly hurting. You know, his wide receivers are Lee Evans, Muhammad Massaquoi, Mike Williams, Mario Manningham, and Lewis Murphy and Sidney Rice. So, you know, hopefully Sidney Rice comes back week 6, week 7. He already would have passed his bye, so you don't have to worry about missing him again. If he can be a shell of his former self, that would be great. You're still going to have to make a trade. You got 2 great quarterbacks because you weren't there. You got Rivers and Brady. You'll probably keep Brady. You'll trade Rivers for a wide receiver. You don't trade, but you should. Your running game is pretty good. I like Jonathan Stewart and Beanie Wells on your bench because Brian Grant and Michael Turner are starters. Again, solid quarterback, solid running backs, wide receivers lack. Decent tight end in Brent Selleck. I like your kicker, Bueller, and the Dallas Cowboys, as well as the Vikings D. Again, you'll have to trade one of your quarterbacks for a wide receiver, but I think your team is solid for having not been at the draft full show. Dro Smokers, faggoty ass Drew O'Neal was here, handled himself well. Again, taking his big quarterback as he likes to do. Went with Aaron Rodgers early. Followed up with his running backs, which are, you know, steady, but I fear them. It's Marion Barber and Ronnie Brown, and then you got Maroney and LaDainian on your bench. Maroney and LaDainian 2-3 years ago would have been a nice starting combo, but now they're decent bench options, if that. I like LaDainian this year, but I mean, Ronnie Brown and Marion Barber are both very injury prone and bruisers, and they're going to hurt themselves. And one week you're going to have to play LaDainian and Maroney, maybe. You know, Hester, Brandon Marshall, and Akeem Nicks. Love your wide receivers. I'm going to have to stop after you, then do me in the AFC, but we'll get into that later. Devin Hester, Brandon Marshall, Akeem Nicks, like I said. I like the receivers. I think they're good. I think Nicks will blow some heads this year, and Marshall is very, very solid. You got Santonio Holmes as well, so I think that'll pay off in the long run. I'll be right back with my team, AFC playoff predictions, and Mo.